What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you today by two guys who really screwed up the Connor Hellebuyck start yesterday as he got both ends of that wraparound back-to-back. Joining me today, my friend and yours, Shams Benamor. Shams, how you doing today, buddy?
Could be better with not still somehow having Riddick on my roster. I would have dropped him, but Konecny got injured, so that error still surviving in my memory.
Yeah, well, I got excited about the possibility that Riddick would get those 2 games. I couldn't grab him. Otherwise, I would have had him too. Instead, I got the clever idea to start Martin Jones against a Sharks team that I felt like did not have a first line of any kind. And that didn't work out so well either. And then that blocked me once they announced that Hellebuyck was starting from getting that 50-save start. So yeah, just tough sledding right now for the Short Shifts boys. But that's how it goes sometimes. But anyway, if this is your first time here, this is your twice-weekly check-in between the ginormous Sunday evening episodes of Keeping Karlsson, designed to keep you up to date with fantasy news, takes, and analysis during your week and all throughout the fantasy season. And thanks to everybody who has joined us at twitch.tv/keepingkarlsson. We try to be on around 9 o'clock Eastern time on days where we record, so... and, you know, there are sometimes some alterations to that. So follow us on Twitter at ShortShiftsKK, and we'll try and do a better job of alerting you to when our Twitch stream is up and going. So let's get into the show here a little bit. First, just something just for fun. I noticed that 22-year-old Red Wing Ryan O'Reilly was the number 2 search on Frozen Tools. Obviously, ROR has been, a topic of quite some interest, getting much better deployment than we sort of expected. Lining up as the line 2 center for Toronto, and obviously having an outstanding game here today. So we can talk about Ryan O'Reilly a little bit more here in a minute, but I wanted to ask you, Shams, since Ryan O'Reilly of the Red Wings is being mistaken, and of course we have 2 Sebastian Ahos, we have 2 Matt Murrays with the Dallas goalie, it's getting a little crowded here with some of these. Do you ever get mistaken for someone else?
Not by visuals, but I kid you not, there was a time in university where I found out there was another Shams Benamor that was living in the same city as me, but never got the chance to meet him, so we'll see what happens. Fascinating. The mystery still lives.
Yeah,
it's not even a large city, so just the fact to have a Shams Benamor that, let alone 2.
So I've never encountered another Louis Ezekiel, especially who spells the first name like the last name. But there is an Ezekiel Lewis, no big surprise there. I think a much more, the reverse I imagine is much more common, who is a rapper. You can go on YouTube and watch his videos. He's got some decent stuff. And then I teach history, so I used to teach a class on the rise and fall of authoritarian regimes. And in doing so, we talk about the Soviet Union, and Julius Martov, who is the leader of the Mensheviks, is like a dead ringer for me if I wear my glasses. So look up Julius Martov. There's like a picture of him with his hair kind of swooped over with a little curl like this. You can't see because this is an audio medium. But he's got a pretty good look for me. Obviously today, that second line just came out blazing, 3 goals in a 3-minute span, 4-minute span against UPL and Buffalo, a guy who I almost spent my fab to pick up the goalie until I sort of decided that was relatively pointless. I know you started him in a Cats league, so pouring one out for you in that regard as well. But Sheldon Keefe basically told John Tavares before moving him to the wing, he said, it's not a one-off, we're going to stay with it here. I think we can expect ROR to be on that powerful second line for a little bit longer here. That's a really nice landing spot for him. A lot better, I think, than we sort of initially expected.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I guessed that he was just going to be a third line, shutdown center, doing the dirty work so Tavares and the other lines could play. But now he's shown that he still has it, and also a nice little side benefit if you needed any more reason to be happier with Tavares. If he sticks around there long enough, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting a winger designation, and now you can fit him even better in your lineup, and that's just a nice present for the playoffs coming around.
Absolutely. That would be outstanding. Get a little more roster flexibility. You love to have it. All right, so we got to run through some injuries and some outjuries. We'll talk about a couple of struggling goalies, answer a question from a patron, and wrap up with a couple hot streaks here. So we got a great show in store for you. Let's start with the injuries. A big one here in Long Island. Matt Barzal out week to week. Hopeful the team is that he could be back before the end of the season. That's a little more specific than the indefinitely we kind of got at first. There was a little bit of confusion over what exactly his situation was. That Barzal-Horvat combo had been a nice little refresher for the Isles on offense, but its moment in the sun is gone with Barzal out. I guess you could say that there's a temporary boost for Simon Holmstrom. But that's not a guy I'm going to recommend, even if he's up there with Horvat and Lee. He's getting single-digit minutes most nights. He's getting a bit of power play 2 exposure, but it's nothing to get excited about, especially in Long Island. I would definitely look elsewhere to replace Barzal. There's 3 guys we're going to talk about a little bit later on. Fabry, Mercer, or Kotkaniemi. I would all look at them as better options. Almost anyone would be a better option, but those are 3 guys that I think are of particular interest for folks trying to replace Matt Barzal.
Yeah, and then if you're desperate for games played like me, the Islanders do have a nice schedule this week, so I actually avoided that line entirely because, Horvat and Lee are probably taken everywhere, but I actually went to the second line and gave Parise another shot because Brock Nelson's still lighting it up, so you might just catch some points on the side. So we'll see how that goes going forward. You get 3 games this week, and then if nothing happens, hopefully some random peripherals can kind of skate you along through 3 games.
Definitely. All right. Tell us about, this was another big one, an injury in Philadelphia, although hopefully a little bit shorter term than what we've seen from Barzal.
Yeah, Travis Konecny, after having a goal and an assist and looking like he was getting back on track, ended up, I'm not sure if it's official, but people are saying it's a shoulder injury. He's out today, and he's in the process of heading back into Philadelphia to get further tests. So nothing right now definitive on the length. There was mentioning that someone saw him with his arm in a sling after the game, so we'll have to see how things are. But it's one of those situations where hope for the best, and then basically just everyone else on the Philly team is worse. Like, there was a period for 6 games where he was out prior. They won a grand total of 1 during that span, so It's not looking good if he's out any long term.
Definitely the offensive heart of the team there. So yes, tough to see him go down, but hopefully back, relatively soon. We'll keep an eye on that one. Hopefully we can give you an update on Thursday. At potential outjury, Cam Talbot is slated to return on Friday. Mads Sogard and Kevin Mandolese in relief have both been quite good, but they were not going to crack a fully healthy Ottawa crease. I don't know that we know necessarily which one is going to stick around for backup duties. So it might be worth holding on to that guy just because, who knows, we've seen people come back and get injured again. Mandolese especially had some really outstanding play against Boston, I believe. So something that's very interesting, and hopefully will be something that we can keep an eye on down the road. All right, so Shams, another big-time injury. It seems like that's all we're talking about right now is big-time injuries, but we did have something that developed in Colorado. We had this injury to Cale Makar that said it. I think the tweet says something about like it didn't involve his head yet. I declared it to be a zombie diagnosis. Because, it's the kind of thing where, we're wondering like, okay, so what is it like going to spread? But anyway, tell us what's going on with Makar. This is obviously not great news for his owners, but luckily, obviously the Avs have enormous depth on the blue line.
Yeah, sadly, where we were sitting at, it started with just as it's kind of a hit on the nose from his visor. And that's what we were told. And that's why he was able to come back to the game originally. However, after the game, they did some post-tests, and now he returns to the concussion protocol. So basically, it's a set of rules and whatnot that he has to follow. It's similarly what happened to him in the prior outage. So it's already been said that he is definitively out for the next 2 games, and then no real return schedule, because especially with these head injuries, there's no set pass. So it's just going to be sadly a wait and see for that. And then, as you alluded to, a shame that he's out, but for any team to have anyone to come back with for support, having Taves, Byram, and Gerard, who were already even doing well on their own without Makarin playing, now each getting a little bit more time. It's going to be one of those situations where you have to decide if you're going to make the move on their bad schedule, if you want to grab them now and make sure you have them, or wait until they actually play a game.
Yeah, some really nice stats for these guys. Taves has a goal, 3 assists, and 9 shots in the last 5. Byram with 2 goals, 3 assists on 10 shots. And Gerard with 6 assists and 8 shots in those last 5 games. So, really, really performing well. And yes, it is not maybe an ideal schedule, certainly, but if you're like me and this week is already a goner, maybe you make a move for the next one. All right, and heading over to New York, not someone we have talked about as being on a cold streak very much, but we got to talk about Igor Shesterkin. 5 straight games now below 900 save percentage and a negative goals saved above average in each of those games. And last night, a really bad start against Winnipeg with 5 goals allowed on just 25 shots. That really stood out in stark contrast to Hellebuck's 50 save effort. Luckily for Igor, he did receive enough goal support from the Rangers offense to win the previous 4 games. They didn't really pay the price for his slump until last night against Winnipeg. This is a tough one. There's not much you can do, obviously, if you're a Shesterkin manager, but this is something that we have seen. We've been doing the show 4 years now. Every year, as we are in late winter and early spring, we start to see the wear and tear take its toll on some of these big-time volume goalies. Yaroslav Halak has started just 16 games this season, leaving the other 41 to Igor, so he's already played the equivalent of half a season. I think we may see Halak start to get a few more starts, and it will take away some of that volume that you know and love, but with luck, it'll help Igor start to get back over that 900 save percentage sort of Mendoza line, which is a number he hasn't hit since almost a month ago on January 25th. That's a tough spot for him for sure, but hopefully, a little bit more rest, get his head straight a bit, let Halak get a few more games in here in the latter half of the season. Obviously, they want him to be fresh for a potential playoff run, and clearly they are making moves to, solidify their position as a playoff contender. One more before we head to a break here. Shams, you want to take this one? We had a question from patron Stripeless Zebra. He asks, Aidan Hill's injury, is this a concern? Should we consider him a solid option to roster until Thompson is back? We know that Brossoit got the start tonight, so we'll be keeping an eye on how he performs. Thoughts on this one?
It's one of those dances of with the NHL trying to find information on a person's injuries. So right now, the only thing that was really out there, and I quote, Cassidy called it a little bump. So I'm not sure what that means exactly, but at least from the terms of it, it doesn't sound anything too serious. But the way I look at it is that either Hill or Brossoit are not seen as like prized players. They're basically, when you remember, they had these were actually the third and fourth because Leonard was supposed to be their starting goalie. They were never actually meant to be playing with these guys. So these are just kind of cheap players that they brought along. So just kind of take this as the chance to see if Brossoit can have a good start and maybe keep it. But just kind of a wait and see if you have Hill, keep him on your IR to see how it goes. And then if you have Brossoit, maybe he has a good game and can get the next. But it's really just whoever has the most starts and hope the team carries them along. But I don't think either has really a pedigree to say which one's in a leader at the moment.
Yeah, I'm actually carrying both of them right now in Cupful. Not that you should try to emulate anything that I'm trying to do in Cupful. But yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think we don't really know. I think they'll kind of go with the hot hand. But yeah, I think that's a really good point. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll get back on the other side, and we'll talk about another goalie struggling a little bit, some Red Wing forward drama, and a couple hot streaks for you. You're listening to Short Shifts. Welcome back. So we talked about one goalie having a bit of a tough run that we're not used to talking about that way. This guy has come up for some criticism in the past for sure. So Jack Campbell has been on a super bad run lately. 3 straight losses, 14 goals against in that time, an 864 save percentage over this stretch. We do have Skinner getting the start here on Tuesday night. They are down 1-0 to Philadelphia, which is not exactly a feather in Skinner's cap there in this goalie battle. But, this is a team that needs to win. And I don't know that Campbell struggling the way that he is necessarily the solution. I think even a decent night from Skinner should be able to get him a few more starts as we head forward. Not necessarily the next game even, but just a bigger share, I think, moving forward. You pointed out, and you mentioned this earlier, that obviously the contract, right? Money talks. So the contract definitely will make a difference here, and Campbell will continue, to get some opportunities. But I wonder, if you're in a dogfight for the playoff battle for at least rest of season here, they might not go with the hot hand.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. Is that all sense points to Skinner, and then hopefully, because you had it before that injury / baby time off, but we'll see how he comes back. Hopefully he can have the reign, because you never know. They haven't been so good as a team lately. If it ends up having a bad outing here or there, it might just be a mush of just goalies that you're not sure who to bring out, but keep the fingers crossed, and maybe you can just take the reins and we can have some normalcy of knowing who's going to start each day.
Yeah, definitely. At the start of the season, we talked a little bit about the idea that this was going to be a year, maybe more than most that we've seen in the past, with some more tandems. And it hasn't always necessarily played out that way. Obviously, the Samsonov-Murray tandem, with injuries, hasn't really had a chance to be a true tandem. And we've seen some other people kind of take the reins in other matches. But I do wonder if, as we head into the finishing stretch here, if maybe we do see, just sort of reliance on whoever is playing their best in the moment. I think that's going to be pretty important moving forward. All right, and we are both Red Wings fans, Shams, and you've got some updated info about a guy that has been a very interesting topic of conversation. Jakub Vrana has made it back into the lineup here against his former team. Tell us a little bit about Vrana, and then we had some questions too about Robbie Fabry and whether or how much we should be interested in him.
So this is not a false alarm. He's actually playing tonight. Vrana's actually playing a game. And this is good. With the tricks that we're being played under with Yzerman, it's nice to see him actually on the ice. Sadly, he didn't do much. I believe the game just finished as we're talking, and I believe he had maybe only like 2 shots and a hit. So the dance is going to be is that, as we both know, is that the Red Wings have a bevy of forwards now. Maybe not one, well, other than Larkin, that's a pure superstar. So there's just got to be a mush of players floating around. And that's seen with Vrana being with both Veleno and Fabry on the, do you call it line 2 or do you call it line 3 line? And then also playing.
Maybe.
Yeah. And then on power play 2 as well. So wasn't put up in a position of much success, but we'll see how things go, because with the roulette, it was Pius Suter that ended up getting 2 goals today. So it's going to be one of those things where at least he's playing in. Maybe he ends up, I think really at the point of now is that you just hope for the best. But like, if you're not playing with Larkin, it's probably a roll of the dice. And sometimes you can have some nice luck. For example, Fabry, even though he was on a line of his own, nowhere really to touch with Larkin, was playing his own Rob Thomas impersonation of having a single shot in like 5 straight games, but somehow getting goals and assists each game and firing off. I don't think he did much. I think he might have had even less stat line than Vrana did as the game ends. So I think it's one of those situations where I picked up Fabry, and I'll probably give him another game or 2 just because like he's already on my roster and I don't want to use a move. But I probably wouldn't rush pick him up if I didn't have him, unless you're in the deepest of leagues and want any hope of points.
Yeah, I think especially because we may very well see Lucas Raymond come back on Thursday. Could be an outry as soon as that Thursday game. That being said, we've been looking at some of the analytics, and I think we mentioned last week the Wowie chart for Larkin with Raymond is pretty grim. Larkin is scoring much more when Raymond is off the ice, or not at least teamed up with him. So I wonder, I don't know if necessarily the front office is looking at that information and if that's going to have any impact on how they decide to deploy. But adding another forward to the mix, it's hard to imagine that it helps all that much. But the Wings do find themselves kind of shockingly in a potential wild card chase here, as some of those other teams in the East are starting to really struggle. So yeah, it will be very interesting to see what the Wings do and how they move forward, and if they can be effective. It could be very exciting to be rooting for some spring hockey for our beloved Detroit Red Wings. Let's wrap up here with just a couple of interesting hot streaks and players that I think could be really interesting adds, if not necessarily for this week, then for next. We're going to start with Dawson Mercer. Mercer had 4 goals and an assist on 14 shots over the last 3 games, not counting Tuesday night where he scored once again. A power play goal from Miles Wood and Jack Hughes, so I don't know exactly what's going on with that one. I'm not going to read too much into that particular deployment. Mercer obviously is not going to continue to shoot at his really high conversion rate, although again, he got another one here today. But he's getting lined up with Tatar and Hischier at even strength, at least as of the most recent tweet from Game Day Tweets. And that power play 2 time is decent enough. New Jersey has a pretty standard Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule this week. It is against some weak defending teams in Montreal, Philly, and sort of the Kings, although Montreal handled the Devils here today. But next week they have Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And that is, a really nice off-night schedule. Obviously, ideally, you'd love to have 4 games, but failing that, you can't do much better than Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Also of note that Mackenzie Blackwood tweaked something, so I'm not necessarily thinking that Akira Schmid will get a start in here, but, the opportunity might be there, potentially, if, Vanacek kind of struggles like he did, giving up 5 to Montreal. And then one other guy that I want to talk about who also has that lovely Wednesday, Friday, Sunday schedule next week is Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He's a guy who's been on a nice run, and I believe we mentioned him maybe early last week or on Thursday the week before that when he was up with Aho. He's lining up with Natchez and Turbo right now, but he hasn't slowed down with 7 points in the last 6 games, although he did, I believe, miss out on the score sheet here on Tuesday. Like Mercer, he's on a bit of a shooting binge. Which not a shooting, like shooting the puck binge, but a conversion binge. He's only taken 6 shots in those 6 games, and he's managed to get 3 goals. So for that reason, I don't like him as much as Mercer as an option, because Mercer's really shooting the puck. Certainly don't expect that to continue, but he has been doing a nice job setting up his teammates. So I like that from Kotkaniemi. Certainly would rank Mercer ahead of him. But with those nice schedule, especially interesting too, they share 2 common opponents during that off-night schedule with Arizona and Vegas. So some interesting options if you are looking ahead. I took one look at the projector for myself this week and decided I would be looking ahead in pretty short order. So I'm already planning for next week. And so those are a couple guys that I ran and scooped up because I am excited to add in their games for next week. And Shams, with that, we have found ourselves at the end of yet another episode of Short Shifts. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Thanks for everybody in the crew. On the Twitch stream, who has watched my kids come in and out, who has watched the cat drive me absolutely bananas. Hopefully you enjoyed that stuff. That is the behind-the-scenes kind of action you can get when you come and join us at twitch.tv/KeepingCarlson. Please give us a follow at Short Shifts KK. You can find Brian and Elon at Keeping Carlson. Also recommend you follow at Game Day Lines, at Game Day Goalies, and at Game Day News NHL, all organized very nicely at the site GameDayTweets.com. Please visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. John Reed is our digital media producer. And until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.